Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here.
This is Houston. Say again, please.
Houston, we've had a problem.
Houston, we've got no problems. Today we want to begin looking at the world's oceans. Oceans are fascinating, huge bodies of water that cover the world. Most of you I know have probably been to Galveston and looked out into the Gulf of Mexico and you've seen the ocean. And it just seems to stretch forever and ever. And as you're probably well aware, there's a lot to it. So where did this whole study of the oceans, oceanography, come from? Well, probably the foundation of oceanography, well, it could go way, way back, but the modern study of oceanography started with this boat. This is the HMS Challenger, which in 1866 set off on a 3.5-year voyage. They went 70,000 miles around the world, British boat, and they started to discover interesting things. Some things that it broke the mold. You know what they did is they went around the world and they had miles and miles of ropes and lead weights, and they started trying to figure out how deep is the ocean. And they went places and they found the depth of the ocean, and they got to this place near the Philippines, and they kept letting the rope out and the rope out and the rope out. It's like, oh my God, it's like way deeper than we thought. It was now been called the Challenger. It's called the HMS Challenger, the Challenger Deep, which became the deepest place in the whole world. And they were like, what is going on? What causes this? They thought the ocean floor was flat. And my friends, it's not flat at all. Now, there's flat parts of it, but it's not flat. In fact, let's take a look at the first journey to the deepest part of the ocean.
Surface, LF, depth, 109er, 28 meters.
Okay.
In.
Okay, roger that. We'll go for a release. That's all.
Life support, good. Depth, 109er, 28 meters. At bottom, repeat, at bottom.
At the bottom? Yep.
Roger, LF. Understand you are on the bottom. Congratulations, Victor. Congratulations.
Well done. Beginning exploration of the bottom.
So the ocean is not flat. So it used to be just ropes and lead weights, but along came a technology called sonar. Sonar is using sound waves, and they can bounce sound waves, and it bounces, so we know the speed of sound. And if you know the speed of sound, you can find how deep it is, how deep it is. So you have a boat, right? Boat. And it's on the surface of the ocean, and they send out sound waves, and sound waves travel, and it varies, and you'll see some problems like this in class, like 1,500 meters per second. So if it goes down here, let's say it takes 20 seconds. Now 20 seconds to go from here to the bottom and back, so it's actually taking half that time, right? Because half to get down and half to bounce back, because it goes down and then it returns. And I could figure out how deep it is if I have 1,500 meters per second in 20 seconds. How could I solve that problem? Well, what I could do is, I want to find out how deep it is, right? You would just take 1,500 meters per second. I like to solve these dimensionally, right? And I would just times it by 10 seconds. Because of course, that's the seconds you can see will cancel, and then you end up with a meter. So it's 1,500 times 10. This would be 15,000 meters, which would, by the way, be a very, very deep. So you'll see some problems like this. In fact, there's an activity where you're going to use this in class. So make sure you know how to do this. I think this is way too deep. In fact, this is probably the depths of the Challenger deep. I think it's about 1,500 meters deep. So this would be the deepest place in the ocean. So this is how we use sonar now to figure out the depths of the ocean. And actually it turns out that there's even a newer method that's super duper cool. What they use is they use satellites. You've got the Earth right here. That's a good circle, isn't it? Not. Okay, and we've got satellites up in space, and then they ping light off of the ocean, just the surface of the ocean, and they can figure out how deep the ocean is and the features in the bottom of the ocean. You say, how can you do that? Turns out that the gravity of the Earth, if you take physics, you'll learn about how gravity works, but the gravity of the Earth varies depending on what's underneath the ocean. So if you're here in the ocean and there's a little mountain right here, because of the mountain that has mass, it's going to actually cause the water to sink a little bit. And just inches, half inches. But the super accurate of the satellites can detect this, and then you can figure out what the shape of this is underneath the ocean, which is actually super cool because for sonar to work, you actually have a boat, in a certain place, but we have satellites all over the Earth, and they can like ping like really crazy remote parts of, say, the Indian Ocean, and they can figure out what's the shape of the stuff under the water. So lots of interesting things have happened in the world of oceanography over time. And the focus of this level, or level 13 that we're in our class, is the ocean floor, right? And we said the ocean floor is this thing that's totally, we don't know much about it. It's technically the study of this, big word here, bath. I spell it right, B-A-T-H. I always spell words right. Mr. Bergmann cannot, so bathy. Bathy, M-E-T-R-Y. The word bathymetric, it says bathymetry, I don't know how to pronounce it, but I know that you've seen the word bath, you've taken a bath, but actually the word bath has to do with the word deep. So the study, or measuring the deep, the word metry, like meter or so like that, is the word measure. So we're measuring the deep. So this is the study of bathymetry, I think I'm pronouncing it correctly, is the study of the deep part of the ocean. And so let me set up the rest of the unit for you just real briefly. The key things is we're going to look, when we look at the structure of the bottom of the ocean, turns out there are sort of three big categories. And these are each going to be separate videos. First of all, you got the continental margins, the edges of the continents, right? And then we've got the deep ocean basins, and then the oceanic ridges. So we're going to take each of these, I'm going to have separate videos that we're going to learn about what do we find at the continental margins, some really cool, interesting stuff, submarine canyons and cool stuff like that. The deep ocean basins, we've got seamounts and atolls and the cool stuff. And then the ocean ridges, like continents that don't exist anymore. Actually, that's the deep ocean basin. Some really fascinating stuff that we're going to learn about each of these as we go forward. But oceanography, the depths of the ocean. How cool is that? Let's dive deep, Houston, because we don't have a problem. We'll see you in class.